Good evening, everyone. At this time, we'll call the City of Tuscaloosa Zoning Board of Adjustments meeting to order. Today's date and time is 5 o'clock and May 29th, 2024. At this time, we'll introduce the board. I'm Michelle Coley, the chair.
Tim Gillen, Vice Chair.
Joseph Eatman, Sr.
Linda Ford.
Paul Rollins, Jr.
Mary Catherine Holt.
I'll also introduce our city staff that's helping support us today from the Department of Urban Development. Ms. Emily Hayes, Associate Director of Planning. Mr. John Bowen with Neighborhood Resources Coordinator. And from the Office of the City Attorney, Hudson Cheshire, Assistant City Attorney. And Mr. Kevin Jones helping with the video production. Now, the Board of Adjustments does not have the authority to enact zoning laws or special exceptions, nor does the board have the authority to rule on claims of equal protection of the law or the fairness or unfairness of any zoning ordinance. By virtue of the state law and city ordinances, the purpose of the ZBA is as follows. Hear appeals from decisions of the zoning officer of the city. Grant special exceptions to the zoning code in accordance with the terms as established by the city council therein. Grant variances from the terms of the zoning code when, owing to the special conditions, a literal enforcement of the code would result in unnecessary hardship. No one factor determines what is an unnecessary hardship, but all relevant factors, when taken together, must indicate that the plight of the property in question is unique and that it cannot be put reasonably to a conforming use because of the limitations imposed upon it by reason of its classification in specified zone. Now, my working definition of an unnecessary hardship is as follows. The property cannot be put to any reasonable use under its current zoning classification. It must be a unique and peculiar difficulty relating to the property of a serious and significant nature. It must relate to the property and not any personal issues. This includes economic, financial gain or loss. A variance may not be granted where the property owner merely suffers a financial loss of a kind that is common to all the property owners in the area. Circumstances that are not hardships, self-inflicted or self-created, inconvenient or personal. The Zoning Board of Adjustments, by virtue of the state law and City of Tuscaloosa ordinance, does not have the jurisdiction or authority to consider, interpret, and/or enforce any term or condition of subdivisions, covenants, and/or homeowner association rules or regulations. These matters are therefore not relevant areas of inquiry by the board on any petition. Such covenants or regulations are between the private parties involved and not the ZBA. That having been said, any decision made by the ZBA on any particular case does not necessarily preclude the enforcement of such subdivision covenants and/or HOA rules or regulations by other lawful means. This is a public hearing. It is being recorded, videotaped, and is streaming live on the city's website, Facebook, as well as local cable TV. Proper decorum, civility, and respect for others is required at all times. There are sign-up sheets outside for public comment. Up to 4 speakers will be given the opportunity to speak in favor of a petition, and up to 4 speakers will be given the opportunity to speak in opposition to the petition. All speakers will have up to 5 minutes unless the board votes to allow a longer time. When you are at the podium, please speak directly into the microphone, state your name and address for the record. All comments should be directed to the board. No questions or comments are to be directed to city staff. I would ask city staff to confirm for the record that all the appropriate and required public and individual property owner notices for each case upon the docket of petition now before the board have been made in accordance with the law.
It has.
Okay. The following procedure will be followed for each petition. This hearing is an opportunity for the petitioner to present their case, for the public to inquire and make their views known about the petition, and for the board members to gather relevant facts before making its decision. City staff will introduce the petition and present facts and information to the board concerning the same. The petitioner or petitioner's designated representative will be asked to make comments and answer questions from the board. The petitioner will be given up to 10 minutes unless the board votes to allow a longer time. The 4 members of the public that are in support of the petition and 4 members of the public that are in opposition to the petition who signed up to speak will then be afforded the opportunity to make inquiries and comments. Petition response. At the close of the public comments, the petitioner will be asked to respond to the comments if necessary. Any rebuttal will be allowed up to 2 minutes unless the board votes to allow a longer time. The chair may then permit the public to respond, but only to any new issues raised by the petitioner in rebuttal. Any response will be allowed up to 2 minutes unless the board votes to allow a longer time. At the close of public comment, or once the board is satisfied that it has received all relevant information on a petition, the chairman will close further comment or discussion, and the board will then discuss the matter. The chair will read into the record the motion to approve the request, along with any conditions set by the board, and the board members will commence voting. 4 votes are required to approve any petition. Again, 4 votes are required to approve any petition, not a simple majority of the board. Leave signs in your yard. The staff will pick the signs up as soon as possible. Now, any party aggrieved by any final judgment or decision of such board or zoning adjustment may within 15 days thereafter appeal therefrom to the circuit court by filing with such board a written notice of appeal specifying the judgment or decision from which the appeal is taken. The board members have had a chance to review tonight's agenda items. Do any of the members have a conflict of interest with any of the cases on tonight's agenda?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll recuse yourself when it comes up. Have there been any changes to the agenda?
There have not.
Okay. And so do we have any minutes that we need to approve?
The April 2024 minutes, so last month's minutes.
Okay. So at this time, I need a motion and a second to approve. Everybody's had a chance to read the minutes, so I need a motion and a second.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from last month.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Approved. Ms. King has arrived right on time for the attorney's report.
There are no currently pending cases on appeal, so there is no update.
All right, thank you. At this time, we'll begin our presentations. Ms. Hayes? Ms. Hayes, is your microphone on?
Thank you. Sorry for that. Let's just go back. Start over with this. So this is ZBA 3924. David Clements petitions for a special exception to allow a personal care home for adults on the property located at 6535 Johnson Road, zoned R3, Council District 1. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. And then a closer aerial view. And then a view of the house from the street. This may look familiar to some of the board members who have been on since 2021. This property did previously come before the board, and we'll go into that a little bit later in the presentation. So the applicable regulations, our current zoning code does not really have specific regulations that are for a use similar to this. So this just kind of talks more about the property being on a street classified as a collector, which this is. And then sanitary disposal and things like that. And this goes more into the nursing home side of it. So we'll just skip through. So the petitioner is requesting a special exception to operate a nonprofit faith-based ministry for men and veterans. Petitioner was previously approved to operate the personal care home at its location in 2021. However, the petitioner did not obtain a business license within the allotted time period of 6 months, so the approval did lapse. It will be in operation 24 hours a day and feature sleeping quarters for up to 12 patients. There will also be 2 employees on staff at a time, and the structure does meet the required ADA standards. Do you have any questions for staff?
Has there been any objection or any comments?
We did receive 1 written comment in opposition as well as a letter in opposition with 5 signatures from surrounding neighbors.
So it was approved but never opened.
It has been operating due to a recent situation where the police were called. That's when the city was notified and realized that he had not obtained a business license.
Do we know what the incident was that happened, the reason the police were called?
So I'll let the petitioner talk a little bit more about that, but he can kind of touch on why exactly that happened.
Okay.
Was the original petition 12 patients?
It was. Do you have any other questions?
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Clements? State your name and your address.
My name is David Clements. 13969 Stone Harbor Drive, Northport, Alabama is my residence. This is at 6535 Johnson Road. And that's why it's a nonprofit Christian faith-based home for men. When I got the approval last time, I went to see if I had to have a business license, and they asked me what it was, and I said it was a ministry. And I was told if it was a ministry, I did not have to have a business license. And then that's when I called back. When the police was called, this is when it started everything, and they said if I'm taking any money in, I should have applied for a business license. I said I had no idea. I'd actually went there, but I will apply for the business license from there. The reason why the police was called was I do random drug tests. We random drug tests, and if you fail a drug test, and I could change my policy, but if you fail the drug test, then we call your emergency contact. Somebody needs to come get you. And this person's family said, call the police. We don't want him. So it's a faith-based. I mean, there's the amount, we've been open for 2 years. The amount of guys that came through the house that are in the community now, one of them got a house right down the road. He's got full custody of his kids back. I brought other guys that's here with me. I mean, we're changing lives. The biggest thing I can say is I had one person pass away. He did not pass away in the house, but he was clean and sober. And at his funeral, this is a guy that had been homeless behind the Winn-Dixie. His mom and dad, I'm thinking, what are they going to say? This guy was living in the house, and his family said they seen him for Thanksgiving, they seen him for Christmas. He was baptized, he accepted the Lord Jesus Christ, and I feel like that's what I'm trying to do, is change the community, change everything, trying to do the right thing.
And how large is the facility?
It's a 10-bedroom house, and that's why the house has always been something like this. And going back through all the records of everything, the 10-bedroom house was there even like in the 70s. So it's all 2- and 3-bedroom houses around it, and there's just one 10-bedroom house with a big meeting room, kitchen. So it's always been a facility of this sort for as long as the records can come through from Tuscaloosa. You go through the oldest records, and there's always been a 10-bedroom house that looks like it's been a group home since it's been built since the 70s.
Mr. Clements, your employees, you have 2 on staff, it says at a time, but they're there 24 hours a day, correct?
They're there 24 hours a day.
Just wanted to clarify.
So what's the total number of staff?
So, I was planning on having 2, but I promote them up. Once you have completed the 12 steps and you're working in sobriety and you're helping people, then I promote them up. Instead of say, do you want to come on as staff, stay here just to help give back? And that's what it's all about, giving back. So I normally have 2. Right now, there's actually 3 staff members living in the house. But there's 3 people that have over 1 year clean and sober. One of them's got 4 years clean and sober. The other 2 have over a year. So I asked them if they wanted to stay on just to help out. So both of them stay on to help out.
You said one has 4 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had any other issues with the police besides
And I have to say, I didn't know calling the police would be, to me, it's a big deterrent. I mean, we drug test, but if you fail my drug test, this is not like you're failing my drug test and just you walk home. If you fail our drug test, then I'm gonna call the police because I don't want you walking the streets of Tuscaloosa. So it's really, I use it as a deterrent, another thing to try to keep people clean and sober. But
Is that the only time you've had to call the police?
I've called the police 2 times, and both times has been from somebody that failed the drug test. And when I called their emergency contact and said, this person's failed the drug test, you need to come get them. And both times, but most of their families, both times the family said no. And instead of telling them to walk, I just call the police. I can stop calling the police if it looks that bad. I mean,
No, once we have an explanation for why the calls, but anytime there's calls for the police to come out, we want to know why, because that can make it a nuisance in the neighborhood.
okay. And that's only happened twice in 2 years. And hopefully we never have to call them again, but.
Mr. Clements, are you usually at 12 patients, or do you ever have less?
It's usually less. It's usually less. We just had 2 guys that completed. I said they completed the 12 steps. Both those were at a year, and they left. But if we have 2, I mean, most of them come in, and they come in. They stay for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Once they start getting their life back together, to me, they leave a little early. I believe in long term. When someone first comes into a facility, I think the first 90 days they have a mask on. We need to get the mask off and let God just start to work in your life. But it's usually less than that. I'd say the average number probably stays somewhere between 9 and 12, though. And the 12 is counting 2 of my staff members.
How often do you visit the home?
How often do I visit the home? 4 or 5 days a week. We have church, and then we have church service. I mean, I say a church service. We have a church that comes on every Monday night. There's another guy from the church that comes on Thursday nights, and then on Friday nights the whole house. But there's 2 church services that goes on there on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Do you have any type of counseling degree or
I ran a place in Georgia. Called the Hickey House. I've been clean and sober 24 years. I'm also the Celebrate Recovery leader at the Word Community Church on Friday nights that does that. And then from doing the Celebrate Recovery on Friday nights, there's just a big need in the community for another place, for somebody people's coming in that's trying to do the right thing that would actually take people in. My guys don't have insurance. They're not coming in with money. Most of them come in, we help them get a job, we have to get their license, we help them get their life back on track.
Now, Mr. Clemens, have you already began the process on working on that business license?
So, as soon as they told me this right here, I said, hey, I'll come down there, and I was told I had to come back in front of y'all first. So as soon as I get the green light, I'll go get my business license.
So you've only operated for the last 2 years, but it's been operated for 10 years before that?
But before that, it was called the Adams Place. And just from doing my research, it's called the Adams Place. And I'm not sure, I don't want to be 100% positive, but I was walking up here. I think the attorney I bought it from might actually be in the room that had the house before. I was walking up, I said, I think the attorney, and so it's always been that sort of place, but I wasn't sure. I was like, I think the guy I purchased the house from is here.
Okay. Any other questions for?
So is this basically, is it a living quarters for individuals that's going through this program? Because Board Chair asked if you had any certification. So, and I know you mentioned your 2 employees or your employees or individuals who went through the program previously. So do you have anyone that's certified in rehabilitation or anything?
That's a certified addiction counselor? Mm-hmm. No, sir. I do not have a certified addiction counselor in the house. In the state of Alabama, to look it up, I went to look because it's in Georgia having the certification. In Alabama, there's actually nothing. In Alabama, you have AARR, but there's no official certification for the state of Alabama to be the certified addiction counselor. From everything that I've looked up to, it's kind of like the Department of Mental Health no one wants to take responsibility of saying, hey, what classifies as one? I'm in the middle of getting my house up, having it AARR certified, just because I go speak in front of judges. Most of the guys, but several of the people that come from the house, judges are sending there, or they're trying to get clean and sober. And I get asked that question a lot, but there's no certification in the state. There's no official certification in the state of Alabama for a certified addiction counselor. I could go sign up for 5 different people. I could pay $500 and get some fake certifications, but the closest real certification that I can find is AARR, which AARR is actually a division of a real national certified chain. But most of my stuff, though, I do want to say, I believe for certified addiction, I believe in God. Jesus Christ is working the 12 steps. And I'm real big on Celebrate Recovery, which is based in the 12, I believe in the 12 steps of AA, but I also believe the 12 steps in AA, going through the biblical part of it. And the main thing we do in the house is wake up with prayer, meditation. We pray a lot. And when I say we do on Monday nights, yes, on Monday nights we have someone come in from the church. Tuesday nights we go to a meeting. Wednesday nights we're at church. Thursday night we have different men come over and do the thing there. Friday nights we're at church. Saturdays is our only off days. Sundays we go to church in the morning. Sundays we go to church at night. My guys, once they come in, I don't allow them to work a nighttime job. They have to work in the daytime. My guys come to work. Most of them go to work at 7 in the morning. They get off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We have some sort of church. It's time to go to bed. It's time to go to bed. There is it's a pretty structured, strict place, but it's 99% biblical is what we're doing, and that's why it's a Christian faith-based home.
Mr. Clemens?
We don't allow no sex offenders and nobody on any mind-altering substance. So if somebody comes in and they're on, because I don't have somebody, we're not going Suboxone, methadone, none of those kinds of, we're not allowing anybody in the house if you're on a mind-altering substance. We want you to learn how to live life on life's terms.
Are most of these gentlemen in your house, are they court-ordered, or do they just, what's your intake process?
I'd say it's probably 25% court-ordered, 75% just want to be there. But a lot of attorneys and a lot of people find out about the house, and I say the inmates in Tuscaloosa County Jail, they find out. We get phone calls from them all the time wanting to come. But when we do the interview, are they just trying to get out of trouble, or are they really wanting help? They really want to change their life.
Board, would you mind if I asked a question? Oh, would that be all right with the board? I just want to clarify one thing for the board. Are all of the individuals in your home recovering from addiction?
Not every single one of them. Most of them are. I say any hurt, habit, or hang-up.
And the reason I asked is obviously sober living facilities implicate the Fair Housing Act. And so if it is designed to treat those with addiction, then we would need to sort of talk about the Fair Housing Act. But it sounds like it may be both, some with addiction and some with other issues. Is that accurate? Okay. Thank you.
That's what I was going to ask. No. Good.
Any other questions from the board? All right, Mr. Clemens, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we have 2 people signed up in opposition. Jeffrey Rector.
And while Mr. Rector is coming up, I just want to make a note. I think Miss Angela Lewis might have signed up on a different, under one of the short-term rentals, but I think she meant to sign up under this.
Okay. So, Mr. Rector, you are in opposition?
I'm a staff member at the Kingdom Group Home.
Okay, so you're in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you give your name and address, please?
My name is Jeffrey Rector, and my address is 6535 Johnson Road.
Okay. Go ahead, tell us what you want to tell us.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
You had some comments you wanted to make?
Yeah, so I would like to speak about myself and what I've experienced at the home, and then speak about what I've experienced about others at the home. As far as for myself, growing up in a rough childhood, rough adulthood, I found the structure that I needed and the substance that I needed through this home. While being there, I've found the spiritual principles that I needed to be able to live life on life's terms. I've not only come out of addiction myself, I'm 4 months shy of being 2 years sober, and I look forward every day to helping my sponsees move through addiction and for them to be successful through their addiction. I work at a senior living home. Having that job is amazing to me, and I feel great that I'm able to work in that type of environment, whereas the person that I was before, I would never even think that I would be in that type of environment. What I've seen with other guys, I see guys come into the home, and when they come into the home, they're down and out. They have they just look like they're just have nothing. And through the program, through the spiritual principles that this house provides, and through the leadership of the staff members, I see those same gentlemen be able to move forward with their life, get out of addiction, build the bridges that they need to be able to be in contact with their children, with their mother, with people that they may have not spoken to in years. And that's a beautiful thing to see, and to see them be able to hold a job when, who knows when the last time they had a job, and now they're able to hold a job and to be able to move forward and become a sponsor and have sponsees themselves. I've, like the gentleman he spoke of earlier when he was sleeping at the Winn-Dixie. This person was a individual that was homeless and in addiction. Through that home, he not only got his life back, he got his spirituality back, he got his mother back, he got his father back into his life. He got his truck back, and Lord knows he loved that truck. Mm-hmm. And he gained a sense of leadership within himself that I didn't see in him the first time I met him. But through this home, he was able to express the real him that was on the inside. There's also another gentleman named Richard St. John. When he came there, he was homeless. He was just off the walls, so to say, in the life that he lived previous. Through that home, he was able to, again, find the spiritual principles that he needed. He was able to gain the substance that he needed to be able to not only get his children back, but to gain custody of his children. And this individual went from being homeless to owning a home on the same block that we live on. And to me, I think that's a certain amount of growth that takes a certain level of accountability from those around him that were in that home at that time. And it's just a beautiful thing to see people's lives go from something that someone may judge as, oh, I don't want them around me, to someone that you would now look at and want to shake their hand and want to be involved with. As far as the home itself, there are certain guidelines and rules that we apply out of respect for the neighbors, as far as no loud music on the porch. After 10 o'clock, nobody is to be on the front porch, period. If you have to smoke a cigarette or something like that, you go to the back and you come right back inside. We have a in the room rule. You have to be in your room by 10:30. We're doing our best to help former addicts or people that have hang-ups or just life problems, period. We just want to see people win. And I'm grateful to even be standing here in front of y'all saying that, because once upon a time, I was that person that needed help to win. And I'm winning right now, and I'm thankful.
Love it. Is that all you like to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Yes, ma'am.
David. So David, did you mean to sign up in favor?
Yes, in
Okay.
favor, yeah.
State your full name and your address.
David Dowser, address 6535 Johnson Road.
So what would you like us to know?
I don't got a big speech for, I'm a little nervous. I don't like talking in front of people too much.
Just
Some
talk to
people
me.
are nervous. But this place, I'll tell you what happened, my story. I was in court ordered. The first Celebrate Recovery I go to at a church, I run in to the guy that runs the place, Mr. Jeff McDowell, and that was a God moment for me. I was an empty shell, come in through system, jail, homeless for years and years, and this place has given me a purpose to help others the same way it helped me. I've been clean almost a year, about a month shy, and I've never been clean that long in my whole life. And I got a job. I've never had a license. I have a license. I got trust back. I have a family. That house is my family, and I'd do anything for it. Without it, I wouldn't be right here right now. Put it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You did a good job. Ms. Lewis, did you want to speak on Angela Lewis? Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak for or against? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brenda Abrams, and I live on Johnson Road. I live at 6530 Johnson Road. Matter of fact, this building is right in my lap. It's right in front of me. I've been here for 30 years. I have a daycare. I've been doing my daycare for 30 years. And can I just give you all a visual? Is it okay if I show you something? And can I? Just a little part of it. I think it's wonderful what they're doing with the men. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's awesome. Matter of fact, I'm a minister myself. I done been to the jail and got a lot of people delivered. Amen. But when you put that in front of my house, that's different. When you put it in front of my children, it's different. Because it's not what it all seems to be. We have to look at this. It's a bunch of men sitting out on the front porch. I think they spend more time outside than they do inside. And this is what we see. My people that come in and out, the families, the mothers, what's going on over there? Matter of fact, this is not the only house that's been over there. There's been several houses. Since Miss Graham died, which started these houses, over 25 years ago, over really 40 years ago, but it's been like 25 years or more since she's been passed on. That house has been a mess. It has been one thing after another. It's only been an elderly home, which is good. It's good for the community. We loved it. Everything was fine. But when you turn it into something where you got drugs and you got different kind of men's, you got 10, 15 men, do you want that in front of your house? Do you want that in front of your mom's house? Would you like that? The people in my community have been in their homes 20, 30, and 40, and 50 years, if not more. They're retiring now. They want to sit back. They done put money, invested money in their homes. They're ready to relax and enjoy the grandkids and just enjoy. Now we have this. This has been going on for years. But you know what? It never lasts. Because something always going on over there at that house. It don't last long. It always closes down. I've come before, I've brought this up before. I hadn't got any response. I had to call the mayor. I had to call different ones to say, enough is enough. You know, I speak for a lot. I got signatures because some of our elderly, they're in their 70s. They can't come out here. You know, they're too tired or either they're not feeling well, or they just don't want to walk up those stairs and walk around this building, which it took me a while to get to. But I don't have anything against, I think what they're doing is wonderful, but it's just not for our community.
So let me ask you a question. So you say they've had different, it's always been they're telling us 10 years it was a men's home.
No, it's been, I think they've had different ones come under the same person's name, or they were just throwing people in there. But like I said, I live directly in front of it, so some things hadn't lasted a month. Some things hadn't lasted a few months. If they did, we didn't see it. They were hot. They were throwing them in there. They just throw things in our community, and we didn't even know anything about it. There was no hearing. The last hearing I got, I came, but it was canceled.
And so your biggest complaint is that they're on the porch in different stages of dress. That's the biggest complaint?
Some of them get dressed on the porch.
Okay. Any more questions?
I have cameras. The whole community has cameras because we're elderly, right? Okay, we're older people. We don't want, we have pretty much a quiet atmosphere. It's very quiet. I mean, you come in, you would love our community because it's quiet right there where we are. And this house has been there. We don't mind the elderly. We don't mind Miss Hosea. She has a home. But there's always somebody there with her people. She has elderly people. It's a nice
Now, is this
setup.
home noisy? Are you saying it's bringing noise to the community?
This home is distraction. It's not good. And like I said, the police were there. It's just a lot of traffic. It looks like that all the time. And it's not nice looking. It don't look nice. It's not fit for our kind of community. Now, the building over there, like I said, it was housed for elderly. It was an elderly home. It is not a home where you should have all these men. God, I pray and hope that they stay delivered and that they find what they need. But you don't put that in front of a community of people that worked hard, and this is what they have to look at. That is what we have to look at every
Thank you
day.
so much for your comment.
Yes,
Any questions from the board? Any other questions? Thank you for your comment.
Yes, ma'am. Now, I had signatures.
You can give them.
Do you want
Yes,
this?
you can
Okay.
give this.
This was from the community.
Oh, that's another picture, okay. Okay. All right, Mr. Clements, would you like to give rebuttal to these comments? Oh, wait, more comments against? One more comment to come up.
Good evening, everyone. It's really not in.
State your name and your
I'm Valerie
address.
Cousette, and I live next door to the property. I've been there.
What's the address?
6515 Johnson Road. I'm next door to it, I'm still across the street. And I'm really not in opposition for it. I just really did not know what type of home it was. I am a social worker myself, so I'm in support of anything that will help anybody. I just did not know what type of home it was. And I do have a question for Mr. Clements. He mentioned the drug testing. Is it scheduled or is it random? Do they know it's coming? You know, those type of things. Because I knew it was only me in there, but I did not know it was a halfway type of house, a group home or whatever. I just have a question about the drug test. You know, the frequency of them, how much notice they're given, is it random? Is it done there at the house? Do they go somewhere and get it done? That type of thing.
And your experience with the home, is it noisy? Is it the traffic bothersome? Or has it been the same experience Ms. Brenda expressed?
Well, it has been some traffic, but I'm mostly inside, and so for me, as far as the noise, but I go to bed early, so any noise after 7:38 when I go to bed is noisy for me, but it doesn't last long. You know, so it's not that, you know, it's keeping me awake or anything like that on a regular basis for that. But it is a lot of traffic going and coming, and it hasn't, you know, been a problem, an issue for us. I just had a question about the drug things. And she said it has been several different things over the years since I've been there.
Okay. Any questions, more questions?
I believe that Mr. Clement can answer, but I do remember him mentioning something about random drug testing.
We'll have him answer specifically
thank
for
you.
you, okay? Is there somebody else that would like to speak for or against? Please come forward.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Pizzetta Foster. I live right across the street from this nonprofit.
Give us your official
space.
address. Your official address, please.
It's 6618 Lot 5. I can understand the fact that you want to help other people, and it's great that you do want to do that because I love helping people too. As a matter of fact, I work with children, so I know what it means to want to help. But the only thing is that it's like, almost like an eyesore because there's so many men over there, and it's nothing against men, but they're like hanging out and stuff like this. And my thing is like Ms. Abrams said, you won't want that in front of your neighborhood every day. It's like, and when they first came in, I had no idea that they were moving there. You can just go by him saying that they're drug tested or whatever, but we have no idea of knowing whether they're drug tested, and don't just try to throw God into it because you want to keep the building because you feel like other people don't like where it is. Because if it's not really faith-based, don't stand and lie and say that it is really faith-based. And like I say, I mean, I'm not against anybody wanting to help anybody, but it is an eyesore. And like policemen are over there quite a bit. It's like a lot of traffic. And I mean, you really wouldn't, if you think about it, you won't want to have to look at that every day. I go on the porch, I'm listening to a lot of noise and stuff like that all the time, constantly. And they say that like certain people are not allowed to be over there, but I know a few of the guys that are over there, and I know that they've done things, and you can forgive them and stuff, but they are on drugs. They were doing drugs when they were over there because you can see them out in the street and stuff like that, you know. So I don't know whether they're being drug tested often enough or what's going on. We don't know whether they're rapists or what they are. So, I mean, if you just think about it, like she said, there are a lot of people in the neighborhood that are elderly and they're kind of like afraid. So, I mean, my thing would be if you're gonna put them somewhere, why can't it be like in another area? Like, for instance, why didn't he put it in his neighborhood instead of throwing it in our neighborhood? I mean, so that would be my only thing, is we don't know what kind of, situation it is that's going on over there. We don't know whether they're on drugs or what. So, and like I said, I'm 70-something years old. My husband, if he's not at home, I'm kind of like frightened a little bit too, so.
Thank you. Any
And then,
questions?
like you said, the approval has lapsed. Because when they first put the building down there, they said the students would be coming from Stillman College to be in that building. But ever since then, after the first owners got there, it's not been the same, so.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
No.
Thank you so much for your comments. Anyone else would like to speak for or against? Mr. Clements, you have 2 minutes to rebuttal, and specifically want you to answer the question about random or scheduled drug testing, and is it on-site or away?
It's on site. We do a 19-panel test, and because I drug tested some of the people were on probation, it's a lot more than just a 12-panel, 8-panel. It's a 19-panel test, and the 19-panel test also lets us know if they've taken something to try to pass a drug test. So when most of them, you go get 12-panel, 14-panel. This is a 19-panel. It's done randomly. It's done a lot. It's done often because we don't want you there. And if any of the neighbors, I mean, yes, if no one's ever came and said one thing to us, we do have there's a back building. I've been wanting to clean. There's a whole nother back building that I wanted to clean that out and say, if it's a problem with my guys, if you see them on the porch and it's bothering it, I could say, hey, instead of being on the front porch, let's just go spend all our time on the back porch. But not one neighbor has said anything to me. And you said 2 minutes, and just for the thing of saying, I just bought the house, what it was before then, and I just, I felt like, and I'm gonna say, I felt like God was calling me to do something, and I searched on the country. Here I am living in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I put the lowest price first, and a 10-bedroom house popped up here in Tuscaloosa. So I woke my wife up and said, come on, let's go look at this house. And if any of the neighbors there, you want to know if it's faith-based, once again, every Monday night and Thursday night at 6 o'clock, you're more than welcome to come hear the speaker speak in the house. Please come and see what's going on. You're welcome to come in there. We're just going to be a 1-hour Bible lesson that we're going to go through every Monday and Thursday in the house.
Can you speak to the police? They said you said it's only been 2 times in the past 2 years, and they spoke to several times that the police are there all the time. It's
only been there twice. That's it. It's only 2 times. 2 times. I don't know if somebody can go pull the records, search the records, but they've only been called there twice.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Clements, you seem to have a pretty good handle on rules and regulations in the House.
Yes,
You said there was an opportunity in the back.
Yes, ma'am.
I wonder if maybe in your future rules, if this is approved, that they could
I never seen the photo, But if it's something that's bothering my neighbors, I can
If we-
instantly,
If we could let him see the photo, the 2 photos.
I can enforce that tonight, say no one's allowed on the front porch anymore, you must
I
go to the
think
back.
if you're approved,
Just
I
they
think
could-
that would be a
Could
stipulation.
congregate in the back.
Because I can understand 12 to 13
Yeah,
people
of
congregating on the
course.
front porch could
Yeah,
be.
especially with a daycare across the street as well.
Yeah.
Mr. Clemens, let me ask you another question.
And do we need to vote to give him more time, or that we're talking to him?
So part of the stipulation with the limitation on the rebuttal is that questions from the board don't take away from that time.
Okay, all right, so just go ahead.
I know they also mentioned traffic. Do a majority of your guys that live in the house, do they have vehicles?
No, sir.
Or are they allowed visitors, or where's the traffic coming from?
The only visitors that's allowed in the house is if you're coming from another church or another organization, or if you're one of the sponsors. Once someone's been in the house for 90 days, they get a weekend pass and they can leave the house. But all the traffic and all the visitors coming over there is more than likely from a local church. And then the cars, I've had to buy 4 cars because most of my guys didn't have a license when they come in there. But it's just 3 guys that really take people to work and pick them up, so people in the house. So a lot of the traffic, most of the traffic is just taking people back and forth to work. And I say and then people coming to the house and sponsors the house. But the people that come to that house is really religious people. I really want to go send me a picture right now of our meeting board, and you'll see every single pastor that's going to be there that's on schedule for the next month and a half that comes on Mondays. And I don't know what the house has been before for the neighbor across the street, but this is faith-based. This is 100%. This is real. This is a real faith-based house. I don't know what it was before, and I can't speak to what it was before. I can only speak to what it is today.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Clements?
Mr. Eatman took my question about the transportation, and Ms. Ford as far as the being on the back of the house instead of the front. But I have a question for the city. So with this vote, since we're looking at the use being a personal care home, and Mr. Clements mentioned that it's 12 individuals that are residing there, and then the 2 employees. So with this vote, does this override, or does this void out the part where we have to have so many unrelated individuals can be in the house together?
Correct, it does.
So with that being the case, is there a maximum number based off of bedrooms, or, because he has 10 bedrooms. So since we have a personal care home, is there a maximum number?
So the way that the board has typically handled group homes is no more than 2 per bedroom. That's just something that we've consistently seen with the group homes that the board has approved. That's not to say that the board can't set a new standard. That is just overall, no more than 3 unrelated are allowed in a home per zoning and what's allowed. And so this is an exception to any of those regulations. So the board really gets to set the conditions on how many individuals is appropriate.
And for city staff too, just for clarification, this one, since it's not strictly addiction, it's not covered under the fair housing, correct?
I would say that's correct. I think that there is probably some debate in the legal community about that. But I think that you can look at this, sort of what Ms. Hayes was saying, from the perspective of, while you've done 2 per bed in the past, you also need to look at the overall size of the home, square footage, because we start getting into very large numbers at that point, number of bathrooms, things like that. And I think you can take the Fair Housing Act and its reasonable and necessary standards. So is the request reasonable, right? Is 12 individuals a reasonable number for this house, and kind of use what we've used maybe for like short-term rentals and things like that when you're evaluating that. And then is it necessary, which is, does it serve a purpose? Do they need to be able to do this? I think it's not a bad idea to evaluate this under sort of those Fair Housing Act criteria, but I don't think we are strictly under that at this point.
So right now, how many people live in the home now?
Counting the staff, 13, 10, and there's 10 with 3 staff right now.
The 3 staff live there?
The 3 staff live there.
Okay. So there are 13 people in the home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Clements? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to close public comment and go to board comment, starting with Mr. Eaton.
Of course, I'm torn on this one, just because I do see the need. I do see the purpose in what you're doing, and I do appreciate what you're doing, but I also understand the concerns of the neighbors as well. We have seen an influx of these type houses in District 1. So again, like I said, I'm kind of torn on this one.
I appreciate what you're trying to do. I mean, I think there is a need for that, and the random drug testing does help, and you are trying to help people better their lives. Seems like you have a good handle on everything, but I do understand the concerns of the neighbors as well. Maybe if approved, we could look at limiting, front porch activity and also maybe putting a limit on the number of people there to try to help both parties, is kind of my thoughts, if approved.
I agree with my fellow board members. I also think there needs to be some community involvement, some reaching out to your neighbors and making sure they know exactly what you're doing. If you truly have a ministry, going and letting them know and speaking with them and making sure they understand and soliciting if there's an issue, if there's a problem, here's my phone number, this is what you need to do anytime you see anything. I like to see people move to the back. I think that, especially if they're gonna be changing clothes, because they were in different stages of undress. I wouldn't wanna see that, even if they were just my neighbors. So I can see how that can be when you have a daycare across the street, you have a senior, aging population around you. I think you need to take extra steps to make sure that the community knows exactly that you don't have sex offenders, rapists, or different people of that nature living in the home, because that would be a concern of mine. When you talk about drug recovery, everybody is for it until it's in their neighborhood. You understand? So I do understand that. But I do think that it's a need, and because the nature of the use of the home over the years has been this type of nature, I think you need to do some community outreach. I think that there needs to be some strict rules and regulations about being on the back of the home and some extra care taken. If we were to approve, we'll talk more about those type of stipulations.
I have to agree with my fellow board members. I definitely see a need for this. I think that there's a way to make it work with limiting and making conditions on the petition, on the request. Perhaps having something in the backyard that is a gathering place. And you seem to be really good about the rules, and from the people that spoke, they seem to really have followed the rules, obviously, because they've improved their lives. I would be okay with certain conditions and that you get to know the neighbors, because it's really important that they know who you are and you know who they are. I don't know if they have your number, if they can call you. And I wonder if they were to call you because there's something they see they don't want to see, if you're available to go and take care of that situation.
I have a lot of the same feelings. Mine may be a little bit stronger, but with this house, I understand what the neighbors are saying. I understand the concern. There are definitely a lot of these houses that are in District 1, also District 2. The only thing that would make me comfortable with approving this would be there would have to be some definite regulations put in place. The employees, Mr. Clemens mentioned that they're employees, but they don't have any type of certification. There's a concern for me. Being on the front porch, that's a concern directly across the street from a daycare. The total number of individuals, that's a concern for me. We have right now 13. For me to feel comfortable, it would have to be a total of 8. So that's whether you have one employee and 7 individuals, and if you have one employee that works for 12 hours or 8 hours and they rotate between the 3 employees, something like that. But to have that many individuals and the employees that are overseeing everything, if it is a rehab home or what have you, there's no certification or there any regulations that you have to follow for whatever guidelines there may be for this particular type of home. These are questions that I have and concerns that I have. And the only way that I'd be comfortable voting yes would be if we have some of these regulations put in place, and also where the community and your neighbors would have direct access to you to voice any concerns, or the neighbors would have to, call 311 to voice any complaints, so that way we have a record of it outside of Mr. Clemens saying the police have only been coming have only come 2 times, and neighbors saying it's been more than 2 times. But I feel strongly about having some type of regulation in place before I'm in favor of just saying proceed.
So when we look at, thank you, Mr. Rollins. So when we look at the number with 10 bedrooms and what you have now, so that means if we make a stipulation of 8, that they would have to put some people out. So I'm not in favor, personally, I'm not in favor of that. I'm okay with 13 people. I want to see how the other board members, what is a number that you're comfortable with? Maybe we can come to some, Mr. Eatman. 20 is definitely, I'm not comfortable with that at all. That's way too many people in a home, regardless of the size. So what number would you be comfortable with?
I mean,
13 right now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the number is not my only concern.
Sure.
I mean, it is part of my concern, but the number is not my only concern. I mean, and I know he said he's got 3 employees that live there, and it's 10 bedrooms. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I wouldn't, if I were to vote for it, I wouldn't vote for more than 10, 1 person per bedroom.
Okay. Mr. Gilliam?
I mean, ideally, my thought would be 10 as well, but at the same time, I mean, I hate to have to put somebody out that's already been there for a while, so I'm willing to do 14, being that that's what has been there for, seems to be a while now, since, probably operating since 2021.
I'm okay with 14, and there are 13 now, but I gave room for 1 more employee if somebody advances. He said that seems to be their model. This is if we get it approved. I'm just getting a gauge of what people are comfortable, so I'll know how to make the motion. Ms. Ford?
I would be comfortable with 14, but more, for me, I would definitely want the condition that they congregate not on the front porch.
In the back, I'm in
And
agreement.
someplace in the back, and that would be, I understand they have to go in and out of the front, probably to meet some
But no congregating in
but
the
no
front.
congregating on the front porch. That would be
A stipulation.
definite condition.
And Mr. Rollins, you're still at the 8 in the,
As of right now, yes, I'm still thinking of other things. And I know we can't call Mr. Clemens back up, but
we can.
okay.
If you want to ask him,
Do
Mr. Clemens,
you-
if you'll come back up, we're going to open back up and have him give comment.
Do you have any additional properties or any additional houses that are like this?
No, sir. No, sir. In Georgia, I was over a place called the Hickey House in North Georgia. And so this house really mirrors what the Hickey House was. I moved to Tuscaloosa 20-something years ago, and it's been called to give back, give back, give back.
So there's no, like a step process, once you do X amount of time and you completed the program, you can transition to another house. I know you mentioned a gentleman purchased a house, but in other houses that are similar to this, there's a program where you're here 6 months, 9 months, and then you transition from this house to another one, and then you're on your own. So really, as far as someone that's going through the program, there's no timetable for how long they stay at the house before they have to relocate.
No, sir. Once you complete the 12 steps, and once you've been in my house and you get there and you've completed the 12 steps, it's time for you to save up, for you to get for the money, to pay your deposit, to pay the stuff, for you to get your own place. When you're through there, you should know how to live life on life's terms. But you should not be able to, you should not be able to go to another place. I mean, it's there for you to be able to save up, get your own stuff, to get your own car, your own transportation, to pay your rent, to pay your deposits, to have your own place. And everyone that's completed our place that's left currently has their own place. They didn't, it's not to go somewhere else. I mean, that's the 30-day, 60-day, 90-day places. Once they complete those, they usually send those people to us. The Genesis mission, every now and then we'll get people that comes from the Genesis mission that's been through the discipleship program. But this is if you complete the 12 steps here, then you're ready to go back out in the community.
And so is there any form of oversight besides just you? Is there anybody that comes in, inspects, or any type of inspection, or does the health code or anything like that come in and have any kind of oversight?
There's a board. I have a board. When I say me, it's a nonprofit. There's 4 other board members that kind of keeps up with everything. I got another. I have a senior staff member that lives there 24/7. That stays there 24/7. He's probably getting to the point now where he's fixing to step down, and I have somebody else come in. But no, ma'am. I mean, not for. There's no. It's
just your nonprofit and it's your.
Yes, ma'am. It's a nonprofit. I do have a board, though. I have to answer to the board.
I got you. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Again, we'll close comments and go back. The motion that I have right here, I'll read it and see if you all are okay with it, and then we can decide if we're going to vote. ZBA 3924, David Clemens petitions for a special exception to allow a personal care home for adults on the property located at 6535 Johnson Road, Zone R3, Council District 1. Limited to 14, no more than 14 people. All activity restricted to the back of the home instead of the front porch, and must obtain its business license. Any other stipulation you'd like to see added? Okay, so we'll call for a vote, starting with Mr. Eatman.
I'm going to be a no on this one.
Yes.
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 No.
Okay. Motion failed.
Okay, board members, we will move on to our next case, ZBA 4024. Maria Chavez petitions for a special exception to allow vehicle-mounted food sales on the property located at 3701 McFarland Boulevard East, Zoned B in Council District 6. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. And then a closer aerial view. So this is at the corner of James Harrison and McFarland. It's a existing multi-tenant shopping. So this is, it right now has a Mavis. So for this, the food truck is not pictured in this as it was reported in 311 as a complaint. So they have moved until they receive, if they are to be approved, they'll go back in this location. But right in here is kind of the general location of where that food truck is. This is just showing you a little bit more into the parking area of this property. The applicable regulations for vehicle-mounted or tent-sheltered food sales or other retailing. So for this, it does just give a little bit of that primary criteria for the board to consider when it comes to the valid food permit issued by the health department, the cooking and the requirements around that, the required parking as well, just additional things that the board can require if it were to be approved. In addition, there is discretionary criteria in which it talks about a limitation on the number of days that a food truck may be located in a certain location, as well as if there are any public safety concerns that the board should take those and weigh them in on that consideration. The petitioner is requesting a special exception to operate a food truck. The food truck will operate from 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. The food truck has received approval from the health department as well as from Tuscaloosa County, and the applicant was approved for a business license that was tied to their home in the county. They can speak a little bit more to exactly what happened in that situation, but essentially that original business license that was granted, and we do this pretty typically as planning, we sign off on these business licenses for food trucks tied to different areas around the state that they need a general location for their business license to be tied to, but also send them another letter saying, hey, if you want to set up in city limits, here are the requirements for that as well, the additional requirements. That doesn't just give you the ability to be able to operate in city limits. Do you have any questions for staff? We did receive 2 letters in opposition to this application, and I will make note as well, the Office of the City Engineer did have some concerns about the location in which the food truck is being set up in relation to the egress onto the property, curb cut at that point where it's being set up.
Oh, Ms. Hayes, sorry. It's 45 days, correct? Is that what?
So that's something that the board can put a stipulation on. It's part of that discretionary criteria, which isn't, it's more so on a case-by-case basis that the board can use that criteria.
All right. Ms. Chavez?
Good evening. My name is Lucy Reyes. I am speaking with Mrs. Chavez. She is operating a food truck, and they are selling only for to-go foods. No.
I need her address, your address, please.
The address is it's 2555 Clements Road, Corondale, Alabama 35453.
Okay.
And they asking for the permit to sell food to go. It's a Mexican style, and they are selling in the food truck. They already have all the permits, only then when they apply for the business license in the city of Tuscaloosa, they put the address of her personal address instead of where they're going to parking. And then they have to come in here and ask for your permits to sell this kind of food.
So have they ever set up in the designated food truck area downtown? Have they
No.
operated down?
No,
They're just now opening the food truck.
They open the food truck and they receive all the business license and everything, but when they fill it up the form for the business license, instead of write the address of the business where they give the permit to put the food truck, they put the address of her personal address where they live, and they live in the county, and they were selling the food on the city, in the limits of the city.
I'm just curious, why did you choose this particular area for your truck?
Están preguntando por qué escogiste esa área.
Es que yo busqué partes donde me dieran permiso, entonces ahí fue en el lugar que el manager me dio permiso y después el dueño ya me dieron permiso por eso. Y como no hablo mucho inglés.
It's because it's the area where it's more Hispanic and they move more, and the owner of the place, they give the permit and they give the authorization to sell there.
But looking at this parking lot, it's not a lot of,
Yeah.
there's too much traffic in that parking lot, and it's a small area. And so my concern is the flow, like people are in and out of that area. There's a tobacco store, they in and out there, they're in and out of the beauty supply. And then to me, it's too much traffic for the food truck to be set up where it is. There's no room to flow around it.
But they sell the food to go, and they don't have to stay there.
I understand, but when I go up to get the food, I've got to park somewhere to come and order. And while I'm waiting for my food to come, that parking lot is very heavily trafficked. People are going in and out just constantly. And so my concern is where they're wanting to park it in that parking lot. I'm looking at maybe either on the other side somewhere or in that other, you see where that abandoned building is? Maybe being somewhere in that area. Yeah, where you're circling right there, somewhere in this area right there, because Yeah,
Es que en esta área
it's tough to get in and out of that parking lot. Didn't we say that we looked at it, that the people that own the hair store own the property?
So it does list that. I know that Mr. Bowen did reach out to Ms. Chavez and explained kind of the discussion that we had, and they were unable to get in contact with the owners of that property, unfortunately.
haga de cuenta que estamos en la área donde está el teléfono, donde no pasa tráfico.
They park, and she said, and they parking on the area where is the telephone, and then is no a lot of traffic, and they parking there.
I didn't understand what you
Yes,
said.
they are parking on the, where is the telephone, and there is no a lot of traffic where they parking. And the owner give the permit to parking there.
I understand, but I personally know this parking lot and come in and out of it, and parking right there, that's not a good place for it to be parked. Because to come out of there and come in, it's too much.
It's a high-traffic area. You're gonna have people, pedestrians parking in the center area trying to walk.
Yeah, it's kind of like you come in from this, off of McFarland, you swoop in, and then you come, it's just, it's too much.
Pero ahí como lo marca, haga de cuenta que ahí donde marcó la línea amarilla se mete, pero esa donde ella marcó la línea amarilla, esa es para bajar, entonces ahí no bajan, porque ahí suben, entonces para que bajen, haga cuenta que tienen que dar vuelta por el otro lado. Es que traigo un video.
She has a video where she said that is where they come in, but they coming on the other side.
Se los voy a-
You can, she can to
Picture?
show you?
They camp up over on the right side entrance. The entrance coming in off of McFarland right there is going to be dangerous if people park in the parking lot and are walking over to the trailer, because people coming in off of McFarland are doing sometimes, 40, 50 miles an hour if the light is green, and come pulling in, if they pull in too fast and there's a pedestrian walking across the parking lot, it's going to be dangerous. Whereas if they come in off of the left side entrance and the taco truck is parked out straight over here, closer to the left-hand entrance, traffic is much slower. There's not as much room for people to cut through in vehicles, so the pedestrians are going to be safer, and they also have more room to park and get closer to the actual truck as opposed to having to walk across the parking lot.
So that was the manager of Mavis Tire that gave his
Yes.
his vantage point. I hope that was proper.
I have a question for
Go ahead.
city staff. Is there any code yet for how close they can be to a brick and mortar?
So we have not officially established that code. We are working on it in our comprehensive code update to establish a distance from existing brick and mortar. So in this situation, because there are no food restaurants in this actual building, we are working between a 500-foot and a 300-foot radius. So for our new update, we're kind of working through for the situations like this where they are coming in and they are requesting to do a food truck in a location that doesn't have an existing brick and mortar. Then if they are approved and later on a brick and mortar comes in, it's not going to affect that food truck that has been there. It will kind of grandfather them.
Got it.
Isn't there one within the 300-foot rate?
There's not. The closest
Crystal's
one
across.
is a Crystal right across McFarland.
Okay. So we have it, state your name and,
It's Maureen Martinez. You see the red line when the road is running like this? It's coming right there in the right hand.
come to the microphone.
Dígale usted. Dígale, de veras. Mire. ¿Dónde está la línea roja, verdad? La chiquita, ahí está la esquina. Dígale que no puede pasar el tráfico porque ahí está bloqueado con un sign grande que dice Mavis Tire. entonces ahí no pasa el tráfico, solamente entra de allá para acá.
He said that is in this short red line, say that is no traffic there because it's a big sign for the tires company, and it's no traffic is where they park in there.
I understand what you're saying about where the truck is going to be. What we're talking about is the traffic that flows in the parking lot itself. Like, when you come in to go to Mavis Tire, they have a bunch of traffic. And then on the other end, they have the tobacco store where people are coming in and they're not staying long. They're just dropping in, getting what they need, and they're leaving. And then the hair store, they're doing the same thing. And I frequent this area, and so when you're in there, it's just a lot of moving. And so the food truck is gonna cause people to park, to get out and be moving in the parking lot. And it's too much happening in that park, especially in that little corner. There's a lot of activity happening there. And so that's my issue that I'm having. Anybody, am I the only one feeling that way? Or
I totally,
I agree.
yeah, it's very, it's high traffic is why you want to be there, but it's, the space is too small for the traffic.
It's not so much about parking spaces. I don't think we're saying there's
No,
not
no.
enough parking spaces. I think what we're saying is the way this lot is built is basically one way in and one way out. I mean, because there's a big curve right there, so it's only a small space to come in on this side off of Harrison. And then, like you said, the traffic is coming on McFarland. And that's, like the Mavis guy said, it's coming pretty fast. So
Right.
it's the way this lot is built, just with ingress and egress, it's just,
It works for these businesses, but to put the food truck in that space, yeah. Yeah, that's, see, like even with that trailer right there, they're not using that for people to walk up, they're just storing tires in there. So,
Where is the shade? Where is the shade is where they parking?
Ahí nos
In this area is where they park.
no pisamos el césped ni nada.
They are parking only in the asphalt.
we're not concerned about parking. What we're concerned about is the traffic, the flow of traffic through the parking lot. People are gonna have to get out and go over to the truck. They might pull up in front of the truck and stop and jump out real quick. So you won't be able to control that. And so that's what we're talking about. You see where you turn in right there? Your truck is right there. The person pulls up right in front of your truck, hop out to make an order, and then there's traffic there and somebody else is trying to get around. It can easily get congested in just a matter of minutes. So, any more comments? Any more questions?
Is this the only location that you're looking at as far as setting up your food truck?
La única,
Yes, it's the
no
only one.
trabajo,
And it's the only,
no, yo no tengo
it's,
otra fuente de
it's
ingresos.
the only income that they have from this.
Tengo
And
un
they are-
mes, un mes.
But city, am I correct that they can always come down to the food truck area that's downtown?
They can. Essentially, when it comes to the downtown food truck area, they just have to get permission from the property owners that are in that, within those boundaries of that downtown food truck area.
So this is not the only place. There is a legal place for you to go with proper permission. So this is, if this is approved or not approved, you do have other options. So any other comments? Anything else you'd like to say?
Parece que puedes buscar otros lugares.
Y el lugar que ellos me daban ahí donde ella dijo.
And in another place in the same area, they can do parking in the back,
Enfrente.
in the front.
I don't think there's anything in the back.
Not in the back. I don't know about parking in the back, like what,
I drove through that parking lot yesterday and around the back, and it's just, it's extremely congested.
Dígale que enfrente está un Auroson,
so.
una autopartes.
Anything
Ahí
else?
se para otra trailer.
Did,
Y hace más tráfico
this is a
que
question
ellos.
for the city.
Y ella
Did
no
we,
tiene ni permisos ni
did we get in contact with the actual owner of the property?
We did. We got a notarized DOA from the property owner.
And also they say that they have, is another food truck that is, where is the AutoZone? And it is a food truck that they are selling and it's more traffic and it is a lot of congestion and they don't have.
It's
any
not
lights.
about the traffic, it's about the lot. See, they could be in another place and it has a bigger lot where traffic can flow a little freer. So That's what we're talking about, this particular lot, the congestion of this
En
lot.
particular es el estacionamiento, que es porque el tráfico que se hace.
Pero el otro no tiene ni permiso ni nada, yo estoy haciendo todo legal.
What's he saying?
He said that it has, the other food truck doesn't has any permits, anything, everything is illegal, and he is making everything legal, and you don't give the permit.
I understand. Any other comments anything else from her?
¿Algún otro comentario?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody, we don't have anybody signed up, but is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak for or against? At this time, we'll close public comment and go to board comment, starting with Mr. Eaton.
I mean, I just think the way this lot is built, I just think it's too tight. I think it's actually a public safety issue with having a food truck and having traffic in and out right there on that lot, so I'm not gonna be in favor.
I agree. I think the flow doesn't work with the pedestrians and the lot size, so I'm also in agreement that I'm not in favor.
I agree with my fellow board members. It's just too congested, and I think adding a food truck will only increase and cause issues and perhaps some calamities.
I also agree. I hope that they can find a place for their food truck. It's obvious that this is something they put a lot of time and effort into. It's just the location is unfortunately not gonna, I don't see it working from a safety standpoint.
For the petitioner, my suggestions would be a couple of things. One, to find multiple locations that will work for the food truck. The one spot that I would have been comfortable with in that area, the property owner that was on the video, I mean, he sort of ruled that one out, where you'll be coming in off of McFarland, turning in, and that's where you're gonna have the cars coming in with the most speed, coming right in. It's right up against that pole where the white car was parked at in the photo. So other than that, it's just, there's no safe space in this particular parking lot to have that food truck placed. And also with the time frame, it's 45 days or possibly more. So even if you were approved, it was at 45 days, you still have another 300 days throughout the year that you need to find another location to sell your products.
Okay, we'll close board comment. I'll read the motion. ZBA-40-24, Maria Chavez petitions for a special exception to allow vehicle-mounted food sales on the property located at 3701 McFarland Boulevard East, Zone BN, Council District 6. Voting with Mr. Eatman?
No.
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 Petition failed.
Okay, board. So this docket is a little bit funky this month. We'll start with some short-term rentals, and then we've got some other two cases at the end. So we'll move into ZBA 4124. Bama B&B Kim Roberts petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 2420 Prince Avenue, zoned RD1, Council District 2. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. It's just south of Hargrove. And then a closer aerial view. Some nearby short-term rentals. This area may look familiar. Just a few months ago, the one right across the street came before you. Here's a view of the front of the house. And then these were some photos that were submitted by the petitioner. Bama Vacation Rentals will be the primary contact in case of emergency. Kim Roberts or a team member will be available 24 hours a day. Ms. Roberts has managed many short-term rentals for years in Tuscaloosa. Signage and rule forms will be placed throughout the house, and the house is equipped with security cameras, keypad locks, and lock boxes, as well as noise detection systems. The house is 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It is not owner-occupied, and the petitioner states that when the house is not being rented short-term, it will be used for extended stays. The petitioner is requesting 6 adults and 3 vehicles. If approved, staff recommends 4 adults, 2 vehicles based on the parking. In this situation, when you're looking at the aerial view, it appears as if a portion of that parking kind of does encroach into the right-of-way, and that is where our recommendation came from. It's up to the board at the end of the day when it comes to without a proper survey, there's really no way of telling exactly where that property line is. And unfortunately, looking at the survey that the county has on record, it really doesn't give a lot of information on that.
Go back to the picture where the parking that was submitted. Okay, so those 3 vehicles parked like that, that's not, they can't do that?
So looking, they can in a normal situation, but this is what we have to based off of from a city perspective. And looking at the width of this right-of-way and understanding that these lines can shift slightly, it still would cause a portion of this parking area to be considered in the right-of-way.
Gotcha, okay, that's the reasoning, gotcha, okay. Any questions for the city? Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Ms. Roberts?
Hi, Kim Roberts, 13752 Westlake Drive. This is a local family that owns this. They're completely renovating the property. So I know the question about the parking on here, there's actually a driveway that goes up next to the, I don't know if you want to look back at that other one, but there's a driveway that runs up next to the porch. So you can park 2 cars over that way. And then they extended the driveway up to the house so that we could make sure nobody is hanging over the sidewalk. So you can very easily park 3 cars across the front, or you could stack 2 cars to the left and park just 1 in the front, or 2, we went with, it's a small house, and so we were going to just keep it at the 6 adults and 3 cars.
Okay.
Do you know the square footage of the house?
It is about 1,100 square feet. I did notice on here there's a mistake. It's listed as a 3-bedroom on here, but it's a 2-bedroom. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but it's 2 large bedrooms. Each bedroom will sleep 3 adults.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Roberts? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
We don't have anyone signed up for or against. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against this petition? At this time, we'll close public comment. Start with Mr. Eaton with board comment.
I don't have any problem with going with the city's recommendation of 4 and 2. I think with the square footage of the house, it may fit 3 cars, but I think with the square footage, I'm agreeing with city staff with 4 and 2.
Yeah, I also agree with the city staff for the square footage of the house being the 2 bedrooms. I mean, trying to get 6 people in there would be pretty tight. I would recommend, the 4-2 is what I would be more comfortable with.
I agree with my fellow board members.
I think we've always been consistent on bedrooms and number of adults, so I would say with the city, 4 adults, 2 cars.
I agree with my fellow board members.
Okay, we'll close board comments. I'll read the motion. ZBA-41-24, Bama B&B Kim Roberts petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 2420 Prince Avenue, Zone RD-1, Council District 2. 4 adults, 2 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year probation. Voting with Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
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 Motion approved.
Okay, moving into our next case for the night, ZBA 4224, Bama B&B Kim Roberts petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property in a historic district located at 1508 13th Street, zoned R3H, Council District 4. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. And then a closer aerial view. Again, this will probably look familiar because just 2 months ago, this did come before you under the previous owner. So here's some nearby short-term rentals. This is located within the tourist overlay district. It's just in a historic district, so that's why it's before you. So here is a view of the front of the house. And then driving down the driveway to the rear of the house. And then looking back up that driveway. As a reminder, this was something that was brought up by the previous petitioner. This is considered a shared driveway. It is shared with the property adjacent to it. And the previous owners did state that they had an agreement with the neighbors on that. That's something that you can discuss with Ms. Roberts as well. So Bama Vacation Rentals will be the primary contact in case of emergency. Mr. Roberts or a team member will be available 24 hours a day. Signage and rule forms will be placed throughout the house. The house is equipped with security cameras, keypad locks, and noise detection system. This house is 3 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms. It is not owner occupied. The petitioner is requesting 4 adults and 2 vehicles. The property was previously approved in March for 4 adults, 2 vehicles, and if approved, staff recommends that 4-2. Do you have any questions for staff?
No, ma'am.
We did receive 1 letter in opposition to this application.
Okay, this property is.
State your name and
Oh,
address
so
again.
sorry.
No problem.
Kim Roberts, 13752 Westlake Drive.
Okay.
This is a family from California that has a daughter here at the university and another one that is soon to begin at the university. And so the house is completely renovated, large home, very easily works for 4 adults and 2 vehicles. Any questions?
No questions? Thank you. Do you all have the agreement for the driveway?
The shared driveway?
Uh-huh.
I'm not aware that there was an agreement needed. It's a shared driveway that's a part of the deed on there that's equally shared by both properties, so
It's on the deed?
Huh?
Oh, it's
Yeah,
on a
that's what
deed?
I was told, that, we have a couple of other houses in the historic district like that as well, where the driveway is shared. And in fact, at our bed and breakfast, we have the same thing, and it's written into the deed that it is a shared driveway, so.
I just have never heard, I know there's one in
Yeah, we have several
Audubon.
in our program with that situation, so it's, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we don't have anyone signed up to speak for or against this property. Well, Brenda Abrams,
That was the one that was, she meant to sign up for the original one. I don't know where I pulled
Okay.
that original name from, but that was Miss
okay,
Abrams.
I got you. All right, so we'll close public comment at this time, go to board comment with Mr. Eatman.
I don't have a problem with 4-2, so I'm a yes.
I'm in agreement. I'm a yes.
Straightforward, I'm in agreement. We just approved it in March, so I don't see a problem.
I'm in agreement. The only thing that I would be comfortable with is if the parking was required in the back and not in the driveway. I mean, I know, as a condition. I know that if there's no condition, then I think, and with them being short-term rental, they may not know they need to pull in the back, so I would want that to be a condition.
Okay.
I have no issues, I'm in favor.
Okay, we'll close board comment. I'll read the motion. ZBA-42-24, Bama B&B, Kim Roberts petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property in a historic district located at 1508 13th Street, Zone R-3H, Council District 4. 4 adults, 2 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year probation, required parking in the back. Starting with Mr. Eatman, vote.
Yes.
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 Motion approved.
Okay, moving into our next case, ZBA 4324, Yin Chung petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 8 Oak Hill Court, zoned R3, Council District 6. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. This is just off McFarland. There are actually some commercial properties at the beginning of this established subdivision. So it's a house just tucked back in there. Some nearby short-term rentals. Here's a view of the house. And then just a little bit better view of that driveway. The petitioner will be the primary contact in case of emergency. They do manage a short-term rental in the city's planning jurisdiction, so that's the area outside of city limits, but still within the city's jurisdiction. The house is equipped with security cameras, keypad locks, lock boxes, and noise detection systems. It is 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. It is not owner occupied, and according to the petitioner, when the house is not being rented short-term, it will remain vacant. Petitioner is requesting 6 adults and 2 to 3 vehicles. If approved, staff recommends 4 adults and 2 vehicles. Do you have any questions for staff?
How many bedrooms again?
It's 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom.
Okay.
Andrew Chung, 11330 Spruce Avenue. I'm not Yin, that's my wife.
Okay.
And we were not going for 6 adults. I'm not sure where that came from. And it'd be 2 vehicles. So it'd be the 4 and 2,
Okay.
as stated.
Okay. And you manage your property already in the city planning zone?
It is in the county and is a mile within the city police jurisdiction. And we managed that last football season.
Okay, all right. So you have some experience in handling and doing
Yes.
short-term rental, okay? Go back to the picture, because the driveway, I just don't,
That driveway's gonna be redone. We were gonna see if we can get approved first before we did anything else to it, because we were worried about if we got approved or not, because this is our first time
okay.
going in front of this.
What do you plan to do to the driveway?
It's
If
gonna be
approved?
redone. As far as, it can fit 2 vehicles, but just repave it.
Will you
So-
widen it any, or?
We can, but I think it goes, that's as far as the property line goes. So, I mean, we would pave it as far as we could.
Okay.
What's the square footage on the house?
It's right under 800,
Under 800?
right under it.
I've got a little concern with
In the size of it, when you're talking about 4 people. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Chung? Sorry.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. No questions, no more questions.
Good.
Thank you. Anybody signed up to speak for or against? Anyone like to speak for or against? Okay, we'll close public comment, begin board comment with Mr. Eatman.
I mean, I think with the square footage of the house and the driveway, I'd be more comfortable with 2 adults and 1 vehicle. With 800 square feet and just the width of the driveway, I'm not comfortable with stacking 2 cars right there either. So I'm more comfortable with 2-1.
Yeah, I'm also more comfortable 2-1, at least, for the first year. I mean, maybe you redid the driveway, something that changes, but just looking at the driveway and how the vehicles are parked, I'd be more leaning to a 2-1.
I agree, especially when you're dealing with short-term rental, they don't always follow and do, so I can see somebody pulling 1 car in and parking on the street, and you can't have any street parking when you're dealing with a short-term rental in the city. So the first year, I'm good with 2 and 1, and then when you come back for renewal, if you've redone the drive and you can show us a reason that we can do 2 cars, then I'll be more inclined at that time.
I also agree.
I have no issues, I'm in favor.
Okay. All right, I'll read the motion. ZBA-43-24, Yin Chung petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 8 Oak Hill Court, zoned R3, Council District 6, 2 adults, 1 vehicle, 30 nights, 1 year. Starting with Mr. Eatman.
Yes.
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 Motion approved.
Okay, moving on to case ZBA 4424. Linwood Springer petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 1601 2nd Avenue, zoned RD1, Council District 2. So here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. It's in the Forest Lake area. And then a closer aerial view. Here is a view of the nearby short-term rentals. Here's a view of the house. And then that parking area. This is a similar situation to the one that was just a few cases ago, in which, based on that property line, without seeing an official survey, it's very hard to tell exactly how far it goes onto the property to determine really how much of that is available as off-street parking. So the petitioner will be the primary contact in case of emergency. Petitioner owns and manages several short-term rentals in Florida. The house is equipped with key padlocks. Guests must be at least 21 years of age to rent and must be present if individuals under 21 are present. The house has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and it is not owner-occupied. Petitioner is requesting 6 adults and 2 vehicles, and if approved, staff recommends 4 adults and 2 vehicles. Do you have any questions for staff?
No.
Good evening, Board. My name is Luann Springer. Linwood is my husband, and I'm here for him tonight.
State your address, please.
15202 Stonehenge Cliffs Road, Northport, Alabama. We're requesting, actually, for 6 adults and 3 vehicles, if we could. We feel like that space is wide enough for the cars to pull in. I park there a good bit when I'm over watering the shrubs or whatever, and I feel like there is enough room to pull completely past the right-of-way and have 3 spaces across. That photograph makes the house look narrow, but it's probably 1,500 square feet. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and we feel like that would be appropriate as far as the number of adults and the parking. As was already said, we have managed short-term rentals for about 14 years, and this house has been a rental house for 32 years, the time that we've owned it, and it's always been college students, maybe with 1 or 2 exceptions, but by and large. And, they have, 3 college students, and, they would have 3 vehicles, so it's not anything new. And the area there is, the vast majority is rental property and not owner-occupied. And I did want to point out that we would be renting out the whole house, short-term rental if approved, and not just a room or something. It'd be the whole house that they rented.
Any questions? Thank you. We don't have anyone signed up in opposition or in favor. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak for or against? At this time, we'll close public comment. We'll start with comment, Mr. Eatman.
I don't have a problem with it. I do agree with city staff's recommendation of 4 adults and 2 vehicles, though, but I don't have an issue.
I see no issue either with the city staff's recommendation.
I agree as well. We have to go with that. They're looking at it, and the engineers. And whenever you're dealing with short-term rental, it's different than just people parking every day. So we want to make it as simple as possible when it comes to that, especially this first year.
I agree.
The board.
I have no issues, I'm in favor.
Okay. All right, we'll close board comment. I'll read the petition. ZBA-44-24 Linwood Springer petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 1601 2nd Avenue, Zone RD-1, Council District 2, 4 adults, 2 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year probation. Voting with Mr. Eatman.
Yes.
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 Motion approved.
Okay, board, on to our last short-term rental of the night, and we'll get Miss Roberts out of here. So Bama B&B Kim Roberts petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 325 18th Street, zoned RD1, Council District 2. Here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. It is also in the Forest Lake area. And then a closer aerial view of that property. Here is the nearby short-term rentals, which is one just next door. Here's a view of that house from the street, and then that driveway. So Bama Vacation Rentals will be the primary contact. Signage and rule forms will be placed throughout the house. The house is equipped with security cameras, keypad locks, lock boxes, and noise detection systems. It is 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It is not owner-occupied. Petitioner is requesting 6 adults and 3 vehicles, and if approved, staff recommends 4 adults and 2 vehicles. Do you have any questions for staff?
Okay. Go back to the picture of the parking. So, well, the aerial, and there's some parking behind it.
There is, and essentially with this one, I think there was a little bit of a discrepancy when it comes to, I don't know if we realized as staff that was available in the rear. I do know that engineering looked at this and that was their determination, but in looking at how expansive that rear yard parking truly is and that it doesn't just go back here, I do believe that 3 would be appropriate.
Okay.
Because that is all gravel back there, right, where these leaves are?
Right.
Okay. All right, just wanted to make sure on that. Thank you. Any other questions for the city? All right. Thank you, Ms. Hayes.
Kim Roberts, 13752 Westlake Drive. This house has actually been in our program. This is our third owner that we have had in this property. And they actually took it out for these owners when they purchased because they have children here at the university and they were using it. And so now they're putting it into our program. We manage the house next door as well. It was always approved as for 3 cars. We are the ones that built the parking area behind the house, and it actually would accommodate 4 or 5, but we've always kept it at 3. This is another example of the shared driveway situation, and so we have everyone park in the back, and of course the other house next door is parking further up and by their carport. So it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house and a large house. It's a 2-story house.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Roberts? Thank you.
Okay.
We don't have anyone signed up to speak for or against. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak for or against? Okay. At this time, we'll close public comment. We'll go to board comment with Mr. Eatman.
I don't have any issue with the stipulation that parking be on the back, but she's already said they're willing to do that, so I don't have an issue with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with 6-3 based off the back having that much gravel parking area.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor of 6-3 with the parking on the back.
I also agree as long as the condition is the 3 cars parked in the back.
I agree with my fellow board members. I'm in favor.
Okay. At this time, we'll close board comment. I'll read the petition. ZBA-45-24, 24 Bama B&B Kim Roberts petitions for a special exception to allow the short-term rental of a property located at 325 18th Street, Zone RD-1, Council District 2, 6 adults, 3 vehicles, 30 nights, 1 year, with parking in the back only. Starting voting with Mr. Eatman.
Yes.
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 Motion approved.
Okay, moving into our last 2 cases for tonight. ZBA 4624, Lynn Chalky White petitions for a variance from the residential swimming pool regulations on the property located at 716 Cambridge Lane, zoned R1, Council District 3. Here's an aerial view of that property as well as the zoning. This is located in the towns. And then a closer aerial view. Here's a view of the front of the house, and then we'll go into some pictures that the petitioner submitted of the rear yard, which is really the area that we're looking at. As you can see, this is a fairly small rear yard, and I will go into explaining a little bit more about that. The applicable regulations per section 24107, we do require a swimming pool, including pumps and filters, that are accessory to a single family to not be any closer than 6 feet from the rear lot line. So the petitioner is requesting a variance to construct a small pool in the backyard of the property that will be approximately 2 feet from the rear lot line. The fence along the rear property line is around 8 feet 6 inches high. Petitioner is requesting, or the petitioner does state that the noise will not be an issue to those adjacent properties, as they do have extensive knowledge of pools and spas, and they do plan to install a quiet variable speed pump. The pool will be approximately 6 feet 8 inches from the western property line, which is one of the side lot lines, as well as approximately 22 feet from the eastern property line, which is that opposite side lot line. So the property is located within a planned unit development. As I mentioned, it's part of the towns, which is a PUD. So the developer of the town specifically came before the board when it was being proposed to request for a variance from the setback requirement. So that is why in an R1 zoned property, you see something with such small yards. So in this situation, the rear yard is approximately 14.5 feet in depth, and the R1 zoning district does require a 35-foot rear yard. And this is just a schematic plan of what that pool will look like. It's a little bit difficult to see, but essentially this is the area in which the pool will be. The petitioner did state that the area between the fence and where the pool will start will all be concrete. There was a little bit of concern from our building division about that, and that was something that helped alleviate that concern about the footings of the fence being compromised.
Where's the pool pump gonna be located?
I'll let the petitioner speak on that. It appears as if it is over in here, but I'll let her confirm. And we did receive one letter in support. We received one with concern about the drainage of the pool, the location of the pump, and how the water will be diverted, if it will be diverted to the front of the house. We'll let the petitioner talk about that, and then we received one letter in opposition.
Okay. Ms. White?
Hey, I'm Lynn White. I live at 716 Cambridge Lane. This month, 40 years ago, my family opened Waterworks Pool and Spa. So we've built a whole bunch of swimming pools in Tuscaloosa in the West Alabama area. In fact, have a couple of, tonight, 4 different pool customers of mine that were out in the audience. Almost 5 years ago, my husband had a fatal heart attack, and I moved away from Mallard Creek. I wanted to go somewhere. I had a pool there for 30 years, loved my swimming pool, miss having the swimming pool. Wanted to get somewhere. There were 2 home invasions the month before he died in our neighborhood. Of the different roles that a husband fills, one of the ones is protector. And when I lost him, I lost my protector. So I moved where I felt like I would be safe and comfortable. Yes, when I bought it, I knew that it was a skinny backyard, but also having the 40 years of pool experience I have, plus having grown up with one, I know that you can put small pools in backyards and it will serve the purpose that I want it to serve. I have 2 adult children, both married. One lives in Nashville, one lives in Austin. The ones from Texas come about 2 times a year in person. The one from Nashville, I see about 4 times a year, so it's not like every weekend there's going to be this hooping and hollering and all. It's really mostly for me to have an outlet for some physical therapy, mental therapy, just something to do in my own backyard. I'm a workaholic, so pretty much you'll find me at work, and then I come home, and I would love to be able to enjoy my backyard and having some water in my backyard. As far as the pumps, that question earlier, it would be over in the corner. There's an air conditioning unit that I had moved forward, and they left that existing pad. This is going to be a simple pool. It's not like it's going to have 3, 4, 5 pumps like a lot of fancy pools do now. The pumps today are very quiet. Variable speed pumps are extremely energy efficient, and you certainly hear them a whole lot less, if you even hear them, over an air conditioning unit. Listening to being here for the first series of everything that went on, I know it, listening to those people's concerns who live across the street. I've always been able to put myself in other people's shoes and see things from their side. So if I do that with the 4 property owners, the ones to my right, as I'm going out my back door, we built their swimming pool. It's on around the corner a good ways away, so they pretty much congregate there and not in the side yard, but it's extensively landscaped, so it's not like they could even pull a chair right up against the fence. On the other side, Cindy has the same thing, beautiful backyard, crepe myrtle right on the other side of my fence. And she sits at her patio a lot, but she's a good bit away. She's one of the ones that wrote a letter for positive because she knows she'll be able to come over and exercise with me. Behind me, it's not just one property owner, it's split, and it's about 1/3 of the guy that's more to the right. I did get a ladder out because I need that to see over that 8.5-foot tall fence. Went to the top of the ladder and looked over just to see what I would see in their backyards. They have a detached carport that's back there, and then an open area that it looks like really it's just a grassy area that they don't do any entertaining. It's extensively landscaped, again, up against the fence with another crepe myrtle right there. Then the other yard that would be more of 2/3 of my property line, but still my pool would be a little closer the other way. They have a big grassy area. It's extensively landscaped, maybe 15 feet out. And then in their grassy area, they've got a volleyball net up that you know, they enjoy, and I'm sure that's, I would guess that to be probably 35 feet away from where my pool would be. Again, my backyard, that fence, that 8.5 tall fence, it's like nobody, I have a hot tub now that's on my patio. There is one person's window that possibly, as I would step up on my steps to get down into the hot tub, could see me for a slither of time. That's the only time that anybody from those two backyards would ever be able to see anybody in mine. They can only see the roof. Those two fences on the side do drop down to about 6.5. Couldn't tiptoe and look over, but, you know, they're a little bit smaller.
Any questions for Ms. White? Thank you so much.
Okay.
Is there anyone that would like to speak for or against that's in the audience? At this time, we'll close public comment and start with board comment with Mr. Eatman.
I don't see an issue. I'm in favor.
Yeah, I don't see an issue as well. I see the hardship here based off Bud, so I'm in favor as well.
I do see the hardship because of the regulations that were already, the short setback, the short length of it's normally 35 and now it's half of that, and so you really, but because of her extensive knowledge and experience, I can see her knowing how to put the right kind of pool in and what is necessary for it, so I'm in favor.
I agree with my fellow board members.
I agree with Board Chair. I can see the hardship.
Okay. So at this time, we'll close board comment and we'll read the motion. ZBA-46-24, Lynn Chalkley White petitions for a variance from the residential swimming pool regulations on the property located at 716 Cambridge Lane, zoned R1, Council District 3. Voting with Mr. Eatman?
Yes.
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 Motion approved.
And moving into our final case for
At this
tonight.
time, we'll excuse Mr. Gillum and Ms. Holt.
Got a little ahead of myself.
Any excuse to leave early, huh, guys?
We'll give them a minute to exit the room. Okay, now we'll move into our last case for tonight, ZBA 4724, Appliance Parts, Inc. petitions for a variance from the freestanding sign regulations on the property located south of 210 15th Street, Zone B in Council District 4. So here's an aerial view of that property. So a little bit about the way that this is done. This is actually around 210, but this is not the property that we are looking at. This right here is the property that doesn't have an address, and that's what these signs are located on. So here is a view from the street of those two existing signs as they are today. The applicable regulations, so this is considered an off-site sign, so that's why it falls within the billboard definition, which is why I've included that in the applicable regulations. As well as for freestanding signs, the restrictions on freestanding signs are no more than 25 feet in height, and they cannot exceed 200 square feet in area. Petitioner is requesting a variance to allow an off-site sign and in addition to the existing sign for Spiller Furniture, Dollar General, Acker Appliance, and PPG Paints. So the petitioner is specifically requesting to move the existing Appliance Parts, Inc. sign to the existing Spiller sign. In 1992, the petitioner was granted a variance from the setback requirements for an off-site sign for the current Appliance Parts, Inc. sign. This approval was subject to ALDOT approval. Due to the expansion of the 2nd Avenue intersection, this sign will need to be removed as it will be located in that new dedicated right-of-way. So the Spiller sign will remain out of the right-of-way, so this is why the petitioner is requesting to add another sign face to that sign. So we'll go into these drawings, just the way that they were done, it's kind of a little bit blurry. So in these next few slides, I'm gonna zoom in on those areas so you can see it a little bit better. But this is a front view of that sign, that existing Spiller sign. And at the very end of this, I have that picture again so we can see what the signs actually look like today. And this is just a side view. So this is showing you that the actual height of the sign today is around 56 feet, and that addition will add about 9 feet in height to the structure. So this is exactly what I was talking about. It zoomed in on this area of the front of the sign where you can see where that additional signed face will be moved on top of that existing sign. And here's just a side view of that as well. So here are those existing signs. This sign is the one that will remain, and they will take this sign face here and just move it right on top of that sign. Do you have any questions for staff? So just to make another note about these, where these drawings came from, these are coming from the engineering firm that they have hired to determine the structural integrity of the existing sign as it is today.
And so they have deemed it that it'll work to put it up that high on top of.
I'll let the petitioner talk about it a little bit more, but based on the drawings, they have deemed that there will be some additional structural, essentially to this right here in the foundation of it, they will need to add more of that footing to make it just a little bit, the sign itself, the structure, be supported better. I don't know how exactly they plan on doing that, and so that's where Mr. Parsons can discuss how exactly they plan on achieving that.
So is the sign as it stands right now with that sign B, I think it was A and B, with sign B, is that going to be removed altogether?
So sign, yes, sign B is going away. That's the one that's in the right of way.
So is Tuscaloosa Music and High Sound Appliance, are they still operating or they're gone?
I don't believe. Those businesses are closed.
Okay.
What's the total height of the sign once that one moves? That appliance parts moves on the
65?
60, that's what I was.
Math is hard. 56 plus 9, 65.
Okay.
Is sign A at the maximum height allowed right now?
It's exceeding it. The maximum height that we allow now is 25 feet. So this was part of, this sign also received approval back in 2004. 2002. Obviously, Mr. Parsons has a better understanding of exactly the history with these, so I will turn it over to him just to let him explain about that a little bit more, unless you have any more questions for staff.
No questions, thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, Cam Parsons, 1804 4th Street. I'm an attorney here in Tuscaloosa, and I'm here on the behalf of Appliance Parts, Inc., the petitioner. Unfortunately, the owners, one of them is not feeling well, and the other one is out of town with family in Georgia, so you're stuck with me. Can we, everybody understands, I think, that sign B, the whole structure under what the university and the state of Alabama wants to do will be gone. And so the top panel, or whatever you want to call it, the box up there, would be relocated to the top of sign structure A, increasing the total height by approximately 9 feet from 56 to 65, okay? Can we go to the structural engineering drawing? Okay. And isn't there another one? There we go. So what's going to happen is the footing is going to be approximately doubled to increase the integrity of the structure to withstand winds and the additional load. In addition to that, there will be structural steel run along the outside poles to give it more of a flat appearance and to give additional structural strength up to where and along the existing panels. And this has been designed by the engineering firm that the university hired to do the study. And we had our own questions about that, and I think the chairman had requested some information along that line. At least we got that request from staff. So the university was good enough to have this study done. So we believe that structurally speaking, the sign will be fine. I don't know a lot about what's going on at this intersection other than this intersection is where the new bridge is that goes through the law school and where the Coliseum is. It's going to be the new southern entrance to the university. And Ms. Ford and I spoke just briefly today about, the appearance of that area. And I think you can expect that you're going to see that entrance area be landscaped, and it's going to look similar to the entrances maybe off of Jack Warner and so on. It's going to be a gateway for the university. So I don't know what all the plans in that area are. I think everyone here is aware that the university has bought a number of those properties on both sides of Second Avenue. So long-term, I think the whole area will look so much better. Appliance Parts has been a business that's been around since probably the late 80s. They purchased their property like in 1987, and along with that, they obtained a right-of-way from the developer. And developments back in the 80s aren't anywhere like they are today. Some of the old developers in town, they winged it. And we didn't have the regulations and certainly didn't have, the staff and the expertise that we had then. So these properties were subdivided, but there weren't things such as reciprocal easements and covenant stuff that when we're representing developers now, we try to build in. But the bones are there. And so the developer conveyed not only to Appliance Parts a sign easement parcel where the sign is, but also conveyed a similar easement to the owner of the buildings, West Building Supply, for those of you who remember that far back, used to be back there, and that's where Spillers is now. And so West Building Supply built their sign, and the city approved it probably, somewhere around 2000, 2001 or whatever. And my client wanted to build a sign too, and the city approved it at that time, but they approved it with the condition that the two signs be conjoined so that they really were just one sign. So there's some little creative permitting at that time. And so you got two signs. The good news today is if you approve this, then one sign would be gone. Of course, one sign's going to end up being 9 feet taller. I said, all in all, from a view perspective for me, is that it'll be less cluttered in terms of sign B structure being completely gone. And the reason, if you've been down 15th, you can see over there where the repair shop was that's empty now. They're already building a turn lane to go into Second, and where sign B is located, there's going to be a turn lane that merges out into 15th Street. So that's why AlDOT and the university want to remove sign B. So the university and the owners of Appliance Parts got together and tried to figure out sort of a win-win, and the win-win was to come up with this concept of just adding the Appliance Parts panel to the sign A. Other than that, we have a representative from the university here, Rob Cooper, who is involved in the property management at the university. If you have any questions of him, if I can't answer them, Mr. Cooper can. I'll entertain any questions.
Have you all explored, instead of putting that sign on the top, maybe, fitting it in towards the bottom of that sign, that way you don't raise it 9 feet? Have you all, is that an option? Is that even an option?
To be honest with you, I do not know. I was not involved in the meetings with Mr. Leppert and the Walkers, and I think this was a compromise they reached because the Walkers did not want sign B removed at all. And so this is the compromise they reached. If we go to top where we maintain our visibility, I neglected to say, the appliance parts building is on the back side of that property, and I know you've driven over there. And so if you go down Second and right before you do the approach to go over the bridge, they're tucked over in the corner over to the left. And so the visibility to them was real important. So all I can say is I'm sure it's been discussed, but that was the resolution to get rid of one complete sign.
I don't know how visible it would be that high on that road. I don't know if that.
I know.
Honestly, I don't think another 9 feet is going to make that much difference, but I guess it would possibly to somebody.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Parson.
Thank you.
Any questions for the UA representative?
A question for city staff. Did the city engineer have an opinion about this? Was there any?
So this was sent in yesterday. We didn't get a chance to send it over to the city engineer, but part of the building permit process is it will have to go through approval by building. And engineering can also check off that as well and just make sure that it is structurally sound.
So if it is approved here, then it still has that process.
Right, and Mr. Parsons may be up here to say that, but part of the notes that were made on this drawing is they're gonna have to go into strict detail. They haven't quite gotten to that point yet, but actual strict detail once, if this is approved, they'll go into that to determine with their engineering firm that they have hired the exact structural integrity of it.
That's true, and the footnotes to the for the initial plan are not up there. They're pretty detailed that require further inspections of the structure to make sure there's no unseen issues. But also there's a second component to this. So after the day, we've already filed a signed permit application, and that's what she was referring to, and that's an entirely different process that will have to be approved through engineering.
And for the city, we're just voting on the adding it to the sign A and the height of it, not the actual surface area of that sign.
Correct. Correct.
Question about the Spiller sign. When was that one approved? Because that's a huge sign.
2002.
Any other questions?
I mean, is anything else on the sign going to change? I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't even know what we're really approving.
So essentially, the only request with this is the existing Spiller sign will remain as it looks today, except for taking that Acker Appliances sign and sticking it right on top of that sign.
So in this, well, we'll get to comments. Any other questions for the city or for the petitioner? There are no one signed up opposition or in favor. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak for or against? At this time, we'll close public comment and we'll go to board comment, starting with Mr. Eatman.
I mean, I'd like to see some other options. I'm going to be honest. Before I approve it, I'd like to just see some other options. I mean, I know we get a lot of signs. This one moving up 9 feet. That one's coming down. But I mean, honestly, before I say yes, I'd like to see more options. I mean,
I don't see the hardship here, to me, other than financial, because it's just kind of like an appeasement where this sign is coming down, so we'll just tack this on top of there. I don't like the way this is gonna look, and I feel like there are some other options that can happen. I don't see the hardship here, that why you have to only take it and put it on top of this sign. I'd like to see some other configuration. If you're gonna redo this whole section, redo this whole area, and it's gonna be a entrance into the UA, I feel like this sign is not going to fit with what all is supposed to be happening. And it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be an eyesore that tall, and I just feel like winds coming through is more likely to, and I know they're talking about adding on and doing more. I'm not an engineer, but it's just, that doesn't seem like 9 feet added on top of that doesn't seem like that's a safety. So I just don't see the hardship at this time.
I fail to see the hardship as well. I've been looking, I've been trying. I know that the appliance store it is difficult to find it. I've had to find it before. But the way the sign is I just don't see the hardship in removing that sign and putting on the top of the other sign. The 9 feet, I'm not that concerned with. It's the conformity of the sign that I have some issues with.
I would just like to see more details. I understand that due to the widening of the street, sign B has to move, so I can see that being the hardship for having to move your sign. Like Mr. Eatman mentioned, I would like to see details as far as what this sign would look like if you're requesting to move it to the top, so full details of the sign, or if there's an option to move it down below. And if we're talking about moving that sign due to the widening, so sign A, that will never be in the way of the widening project, so sign A is gonna be there forever, basically. Yeah, I would just like to see more details, and from that, I think I'd be comfortable with it. It does make it easier to have everything on one sign as opposed to put another standalone sign, whether it's 5 feet away or close to the building, if that's an option. But I would just like to see more details on the sign.
Okay, we'll close board comment. I'll read the motion. ZBA-47-24, Appliance Parts Incorporated petitions for a variance from the freestanding sign regulations on the property located south of 210 15th Street, Zone BN, Council District 4. Voting with Mr. Eatman?
no.
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 Motion failed. That means we are adjourned for this evening.